Hello, my name is David Staples. I've been working in the IT field for a number of years, and I've decided to create a video series to share some tips, tricks, and useful features of a number of different applications. So I hope you find these useful, and thank you for watching. So today we're going to be talking about data types for PHP. So we've talked about variables a little bit, but let's talk about the kinds of data that you would store in a variable. So there are four main data types that we'll be talking about that can be stored in a variable in PHP. So the first one we call Boolean. A Boolean type is basically an on-off switch. Your light switch is typically either on or it's off. We don't support dimmers here, so the values that you'll store in there are typically either true or they're false. There's really no in between, there's no gray area. Like I said, it's an on-off, it's a binary type of data, and we call this Boolean. Next, we call the next one integer. An integer is just as you learned in basic math class growing up. It's just a round number with no decimal places, so pretty straightforward, but easy to remember. And next we've got some float or double or real numbers, and these are basically just numbers that have decimal places, and they can be expressed in a couple of different ways. Some examples are perhaps pi 3.14159, and of course it keeps on going from there, but this should serve at least for a pretty decent example. 2.5e6, so it does support scientific notation, both in the positive and negative numbers, so you could also write it just 4e negative 4. And of course the size of a float is platform dependent. There is a standard IEEE format that we typically say is a maximum of 1.8 times 10 to the 308 with a precision of roughly 14 decimal places, so if you ever happen to need some numbers that large or larger than that, you may be out of luck. And the last, but certainly not least, is a string. And a string is just basically a series of characters. It can include numbers or letters or some other special characters in there. ASCII includes some other different characters that aren't really classified as either numbers or letters. And strings can be specified in 4 different ways, but I'm only really going to be focusing on 2 throughout our PHP instruction here. Most people really don't use the other 2 all that often. And if you're getting to the point where you are using those, then you've made it way beyond the basic courses of PHP and kind of more into the intermediate or advanced type levels. So the way that we would typically reference a string or specify a string in PHP is you'll store it either in some double quotes, as I show in my first bullet point here, or you can store it in single quotes. You can basically put whatever string in between the two single quotes, and that will store it in whatever variable you're telling it to store that string in. And of course we'll be talking about variables and some other types of strings and how to store them in a different session, but this should at least give you some information or some of the basics on the different data types that are available in PHP. If you'd like some more information, feel free to email me at either of the email addresses that are on your screen, david@ponytailacres.org or david.staples@mercurypro.com. I'd be happy to send you some information about some of the real classes that we have, either in a classroom or some of the virtual classes that I hold either throughout the week or on weekends. Whatever fits various people's schedules, so I can certainly work it in. But hopefully you guys have found this useful, and come back and watch some of my other videos. Thank you and have a great day.